I'm going to set position 4 right now. Here we go. Boom. I think that's a tricky question because DJ DeFalco is one of the best spikers in the world, right? It's kind of a recipe for disaster. So you can do everything perfect and still lose the point, because if I understand that I'm doing that, then the other coaches are understanding that I'm doing that as well. And then you start bombing them with your biggest attackers. Yeah, because if you're staying a little bit closer for the pipe, and then all of a sudden that ball's going past you, you're dead. You know, and there's so many different ways that you can start a game. I may not agree, but our communication is so important. It's their job to help me.
My guest at VolleyCountry podcast is great setter Micah Christenson, and I think we have very interesting topic for all volleyball setters. Our topic is about how to play when you have good or ideal reception, how to play and where to set. So I would like to hear your advice for all these eager setters which want to improve their game.
I'll do my best. Yeah, it's a very broad topic, but I'll do my best.
Okay, so can you start with your basic ideas? You know, if you are in a good position and there is a ideal reception, what is your the first thoughts?
There are so many thoughts. I mean, even before the first reception of the game, I already have certain plans, right? Because I'm watching video, I'm studying the block of the other team, watching different blockers, then what their middle blockers are doing, what the area 4 and area 2 blockers are doing. Do they help a lot? When do they help? Do they help a lot? Are they staying close? Is area 4 staying close when our opposite is second line? Or are they always going out? Because then it just influences my decision in so many different ways, especially on a perfect pass or a good reception, you know, as it gets to more medium reception, more, you know, further off the net, those decisions become small, they become less. You have less decisions. But when it's on the net and near the net, there's so many different things that come into play. Obviously, I think it's pretty well known I like to play pipe a lot, first tempo and pipe. And so that's always, I think, a really good way to keep blockers honest, to make sure they're not just going and bailing onto their guys every single time. And if they are, then they're just going to get destroyed by pipe. And once you understand that they're starting to think about it, and you have the ability to play fast to area 4, area 2, then you can really start to play with the blockers and play this fun game where they have no idea. Because if you're staying a little bit closer for the pipe, and then all of a sudden that ball's going past you, you're dead, you know? So there's a lot of different decisions that can come into play, but at the same time, it's a lot of it is studying what the block does before the game. So I can give you 25 different scenarios where the blockers are doing something different, and I will make a different decision. But I also think it's always nice to establish the middle of the court, to control the middle of the court in the game, and that is first tempo and pipe.
So you say that in the beginning of the set, you like to play first tempo and pipe?
It depends. When I was younger, yes, I would do that a lot, and it depends. And so I would watch my games and understand that I did that, and so I would change. Because if I understand that I'm doing that, then the other coaches are understanding that I'm doing that as well, and so I change. And so I'm watching how many times, at what time are they going to start to commit with my middle blocker? How often are they going to jump with him? And so there's so many different ways that you can start a game. And I think it's great to consider all of them. Like, you can start a set in a match. You can start a match first tempo, pipe, first tempo, ball to 4. And this is with the understanding that you're getting perfect receptions all the time. You have Eric Shoji as your libero. But then you can start with your star players, your big attackers, and just get them going immediately, because a lot of teams think they're not really going to start with them. They're going to end with those players. You know, at the end of the sets, they're going to go to those stars, and then you start bombing them with your biggest attackers, and all of a sudden you're winning by 3 points, 4 points in the first 10 points of the set. And so it really is a chess game with setting. And that's what I love about it. It's so fun because because you never know what the other team's going to do. Even if you study and you're really confident, they could have a completely different game plan. And so the beautiful, there's a wonderful quote from Mike Tyson, like everybody has a game plan until you get punched in the face. And then your game plan goes out the window. And so after that first point, after those first 3, 4, 5 points, your game plan can completely change as a setter. This happened so many times in my career where you have this whole idea, I think this guy's going to do this and this and this. And then after those first 5 points, you're like, they're not doing that at all. So I got to change now in the moment. I can't study and think about it. It's time to change now. And that's what I love so much about setting.
And in the U.S. national team, it's only about your decision, or of course the coaches are saying that, for example, you play against Brazil and they are committing a lot with the outside hitter, so you have to play more with the position 4, or it's just that you have like a plan and you want to keep this plan, what is based in the beginning of the game, but you said that sometimes it's changing. So how much influence has a coach on you, or it's just about you that you are following, you're driving the team in your way?
Well, I think that's a tricky question because at the end of the day, I am the one that has to set the ball. And so my decision has to be the one that I'm really convinced with. And so I'm very lucky to have coaches that speak with me and we talk a lot. And so before the games, we also prepare our plan together. I watch video, we watch video together, they watch video alone, and then we come together and we decide a plan. And I'm also very lucky that they trust me to make those decisions in the game. But I also go to them a lot and say, do you see them doing this? It seems like they're doing this. Or I ask them to tell me if there's something going on that I'm not seeing. I ask them to please tell me if there's anything that you think is going on. I may not agree, but our communication is so important that I want to hear almost everything that you're coming. If the coach is coming to me every point, they're doing this, they're doing that, I'd say, okay, let's please give me some freedom to make some decisions. But that's an extreme situation, right? That's every point the coach is, you got to set here, now you got to set here, and it's like, okay, you can't really play volleyball. That's more of being a robot. But every time out, I'm having a conversation with Javier Weber, who we talked about before, I deal with a lot with setting on my national team, where it seems like this player is doing really well right now. And sometimes I don't think about numbers a lot and how this player is spiking at 90% right now, and he's spiking so well. I don't really think too much about that all the time on the court. Sometimes it's very obvious, and that person is just destroying everything and killing the ball every time he touches it. And sometimes it's less obvious. And sometimes I need that coach to come help me and remind me that this player is being very good for us, and we need to keep him in the game. Or the opposite. This player hasn't gotten any sets and they need some to get going. And so I really appreciate all of that information from the coaches. But at the end of the day, it is the setter that is it is the players that have to play the game and touch the ball. And so I do think that the player, and in my case, the setter, me, I just have to be very convinced with the decision that I'm making. Because if I'm a player and I'm going out there and I don't really believe in what I'm doing, but I feel like I have to, I think it's kind of a recipe for disaster. So I'm really lucky that our coaches and myself, we have a really good relationship to where we trust each other, and we can communicate really well.
And of course, that if you have an ideal reception, you want that your spikers, middle blockers, outside opposite is making a lot of points. And do you try to play with them like faster, even at the cost of the little bit of inaccuracy, or you rather give them the ball that they want and they score?
Yeah, so I really like to give each hitter the ball that they want. And so every hitter on my national team has a different ball and has a different trajectory, has a different speed. It may be very, very small, but every hitter has their perfect ideal ball is a little bit different than one another. And so it's my job to try to find that. It's their job to help me. And if I don't find it, it's still your job to try to kill the ball or do the best with what you can. And so as a setter, oftentimes, maybe it's hard to say how often you're perfect and how often you're not perfect in terms of setting the ball and the precision and the location. But for me, it's you have perfect, and then you have your range of error, right? And if I can keep that range as close to perfect as I can and not make it too big, then that really helps the hitters trust me a lot more, right? And so if I want to say, okay, guys, I think you can play a little bit faster now. If that range is small, a range of error is small, then they'll trust me and they'll consistently be on the right timing and the right tempo. But if my range is big, then it's really hard to trust the setter and where I'm going to put the ball. So how are you supposed to go a little bit faster or think that the ball is going to reach right there on your arm, on your shoulder? And so I try to give the hitters the ball that they want, but I never want that to sacrifice too much of my accuracy. So we find a ball, if I think it's a ball that I would have a really hard time setting all the time, then we would have to have a conversation and we'd communicate and I'd say, look, I'm way more comfortable playing this ball. What do you think? Do you think you could spike this ball? Because I think I can make it perfect a lot more times than I can make this other ball perfect. And so, I mean, I've said it many times already in this last 10 minutes of, I think communication is so incredibly important in volleyball with the coaches, with your players, with everybody around you. Because if you're not communicating, volleyball is a game of mistakes. There's so many mistakes, and you can do everything perfect and still lose the point because the other team hits it off your finger like this. And so communication is such an important thing when there's so many errors and mistakes going on. And so as a setter, it's really, really, really important to communicate with your spikers.
And I think that you will also agree with me that the spiker has to be like unreadable, that they don't attack only one direction, that they have a lot of shots, a lot of attacks. And also for the setter, you are readable, that you will set only good reception to position 4. And I know that you also like to dump the ball sometimes. So tell me about your dumps. Do you do this especially in the occasion that when the spikers are not, scoring the points, or you do it because the ball is so ideal that you dump the ball?
Yeah, it's very, very rarely. I can't remember a moment when I was thinking, oh, my spikers aren't able to make points, so I need to make points. I think you're in a really bad situation if your setter needs to spike a lot of balls. Yeah, and so I think for me, when I am dumping the ball and attacking the ball, it is a moment where I try to be deceptive. I try to make it a secret and a surprise for the certain teams. And so I do study certain players that are close, that are always watching the setter, or they're not, and they're out constantly. And so I know with a good reception, like I'm going to be able to attack the ball and probably make a point. But it just works out the way it works out sometimes. I also spike sometimes left-handed. And a lot of people ask me why and whatever. So I throw balls left-handed. I throw left-handed. So oftentimes volleyball players will spike with the hand they throw with. It's a very similar motion. But for some reason, I learned to spike with my right, but I still can spike pretty hard with my left. And so it feels really natural to spike with the left. And so I have that option as well. I got lucky.
That's good, because it's not like usual that the setter who is serving with the right hand is also attacking with the left hand. But, there are some examples. I knew some players, and you are also a great example that you can also attack. And I think it's like a next spiker, because normally you have 4 people ready to attack. And if you are 5th, it's like a bigger problem for the opponent, and you want to make as much pressure on the team. It's always about the pressure, because I remember when I played World Championships in 2006 against Brazil, and Ricardo was setting pipes for the first time, and I was like spiker, and I didn't know where to go because everybody is going fast, and I was like under a big pressure. And I think that you want to also create this pressure on the other team players and on their defense, on their block now.
Yeah, the more pressure I can put on the block and the defense is I'm doing my job better. And so the only thing is, I am a setter and my spikers are the spikers. So if I start to become a little bit too selfish, let's say, and I think I can do all of these balls and whatever, and I start to not do it, then that I think hurts the team quite a bit if I'm not making points doing that and I try to do too many times, because it can be discouraging for a spiker. Those guys, they want to score all the points, they want to do all that kind of stuff, and that's their job, and you can't blame them. But if you try 3 times and you get defended and blocked 3 times, then it's probably like you probably should continue to try to focus on setting a little more, because the spiker's job is to spike and you're continuing to set them up in the best way possible. And so it just can be a little bit discouraging if you don't score it, but if you do score it, it's a great thing. So that's the fun balance of it all.
And my next question is about the setting style, because you said that you are changing your style, and I know some players, they are maybe not so experienced, and they, at the end of the sets, at the end of the tiebreak, they are changing their styles. Do you also advise to players to always keep their mind the same, or do you have like some kind of help in the end of the set? That this TJ DeFalco is scoring, so I am going with him and I will put him a lot of balls. Or what is your advice how to play at the end of the sets or in the crucial moments of the match?
Yeah, I think with setting and volleyball in general, I think context of the situation is so important. So TJ DeFalco is one of the best spikers in the world, right? But if he's having a bad game, it's hard to all of a sudden give him the ball 24-24 and expect him to kill the ball. And I know TJ will want the ball at 24-24 because that's his mindset. And that's absolutely the best mindset I want out of any spikers. I want my spikers to want the ball always. But as a setter, it's your job to put your team in the best position to make the point. And so even if TJ wants the ball and they could run 2 blockers there and our middle blocker has no block up, the percentage of us killing the ball from first tempo is probably, with no block, is higher than TJ with 2 blocks. So the context is so important to how the flow of the game is going and how everything is playing out. But I also think it's really important you never forget your strengths and your team's strengths. And so you should always have the things that you do really, really, really well and never break from those things, or never forget those things and think that you have to try all these different things to win because you can't get it done with your base, with your core. But so base your game off of the core that you guys do really, really well, and then sprinkle in some changes that will keep the blockers and the defense honest and guessing a little bit.
And of course, you have a big advantage because you are playing like a U.S. national team, like many years together. So you know each other. It's not like that every year is coming a new spiker, new opposite, new middle blocker. So and you have experienced many of these tough situations and tough games at the end of the set. So you feel each other. You don't have to watch, sometimes to set with the middle blocker. And I'm also interested because sometimes when the reception is too good, like 1 meter over the net, and you have to set with the one hand, what is your strategy? Because if you play only with the middle blocker, then the middle blocker will commit and they will block, or they have big chance to block him. Or you want to play also with the outsider or opposite.
Yeah.
Do you think about this when you have like too good reception or too close to the net?
I mean, you kind of think about it. As I've gotten older, I've gotten better at looking at the other side of the net too and seeing if they're jumping and seeing if they're not jumping with my middle blocker. And so I think it's just practicing at it's steps, right? The first ball, the easiest ball is to set your middle blocker. And then the next ball is either back. For me, it was back was the next ball. And then after was forward because it's a little bit further and longer. But what's funny is that I've never practiced that. I've never, now that I think about it, I've never come to the gym and been like, throw the ball close to the net. I want to practice doing like this. I think it's kind of naturally part of a setting motion. And you're touching the ball a little bit more with your right anyway, because the ball's coming this way. When you're setting a perfect ball. So that's a good question of, I've never, to realize that I've never really practiced it, but you just get, it happens a pretty good amount in training and all these things. And so you get the training that way. But I think just the setter's job is to put the hitter in a, we say like set a hittable ball, like let the hitter give them the opportunity to hit the ball. And so the best way I can do it, this is kind of an emergency situation, right? If I have to set with one hand. So just set the easy ball that your hitter can try to spike the ball in the best possible way.
And what would be your the most important advice for the setters, how they should think, where to set, how to solve these situations when they have a good reception? Because sometimes they get a lot of information from the coach, they have a lot of statistics, and sometimes they get lost in the game. So what would be like your main, or what is your main focus area that you are thinking when there is this situation?
I'm going to answer that kind of in a different way. I think as a setter, you should always have a reason why you're setting the ball in a certain place. So if I set first tempo, I should be able to tell myself or my coach, this is the reason, this is why I was thinking. I was thinking because I think this middle blocker, I just played first tempo, or I just played pipe 2 times. So I think he's going to be waiting on the pipe this time. And so first tempo should be wide open. And I think as a setter, you have to have these reasons and these ideas and these plans. And sure, they can be wrong. Like you can make the wrong decision. And I had I set first tempo because I thought he was going to wait, but actually he jumped and committed and we lost the point. And so I can at least go back and understand that was my process. And so I made the wrong decision, because even if he commits and my middle blocker kills the ball, it could be right or wrong. It doesn't really matter, but at least you have a reason to then improve your decision for the next time and the next time. And you can watch video on yourself and you can say, I remember why I set the opposite on that play, because I thought they were helping a lot, or the opposite, he was just unstoppable and I was just giving him the ball. And so you have the ability to learn a lot more when you have reasons and when you have plans. And then when you decide to do something based on the reason, do it and don't question it. Just, I'm going to set position 4 right now. Here we go. Boom. I'm not going to, the ball's coming. Oh, maybe I should actually set back. Like I decided, boom, I'm going to be aggressive and I'm going to be decisive with it. And I think that's really important as a young setter, but also at my level too. Sometimes I get in, I confuse myself, and that is a bad place to be as a setter. So I remind myself to be confident where I'm choosing to set the ball. Even if it's wrong, even if there's 3 blocks, my hitter can still kill the ball with 3 blocks. I'm not worried. I shouldn't be worried about that.
This was very good advice at the end of our podcast, and I would like to really much to speak with you for a longer time, but I want to keep my podcast short. So thank you very much for your time, and good luck with your U.S. national team, because this season will be very tough and Olympics in front of you. And I think that you are dreaming not only about the medal, but maybe about a little bit better medal than just a medal. And I wish you good luck. And I hope that I will see you soon, maybe in our podcast again.
Sounds great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun talking volleyball with you. Thank you very much.